Today's topic is a really important one when it comes to voting rights, and that's curing. I'm not talking about in the medical sense, like a conspiracy theorist needs someone to cure them of the belief that Republican election officials bought voting machines that somehow magically transformed a bunch of Donald Trump paper ballots into Joe Biden paper ballots. There's no quick cure for that. But instead, this story is about ballot curing, an important voter protection in place to fix or cure legally cast absentee ballots when real voters make honest mistakes. Like if a married couple happens to send their ballots back in each other's envelopes by accident, or if there are questions about the authenticity of one of their signatures. Because this voter protection is under attack. See, signature verification is an important part of our absentee voting process. Along with things like barcodes on envelopes and watermarks on ballots, it's one of the ways we prevent fraud. But over-ambitious signature rejecting can also disenfranchise legitimate voters, all for the simple fact that their handwriting may resemble that of a distracted first grader. Tens of thousands of voters across the country had their legit ballots tossed this year, all because some election worker didn't think their signature looked right. And it can be really upsetting to find out your ballot was tossed. Here's a voter from Michigan.
It's just kind of like, that's ridiculous because I'm in my 40s. So obviously my signature is not the same as it was when I was 18 and I registered to vote. I mean, really. Yeah, it's not a good system of verification for who you are because my signature varies, day to day.
I think we can all relate. Especially when the only signatures some states have on record are those little squiggles you wrote in the little digital boxes when you got your license. Needless to say, you need a forensic handwriting expert to determine its authenticity. Except, I found a forensic handwriting expert whose vote was also tossed due to a bad signature.
My own ballot got rejected and I was like, oh, okay. So you guys know more than me.
Beverley East suspects she fell victim to a common problem. She signed her maiden name when the signature on file was her married name. It's something that disenfranchises women all over the country following a signature change after a wedding or a divorce. Signature variations also tend to affect older voters who may not have the vision or hand strength they once had, voters who have suffered medical episodes like a stroke, and voters who never learned cursive in school. It's crazy to think your ability to flow letters together in your name is an integral part of whether your vote will count in America. And to my 5th grade teacher, Miss Messias, I'm sorry. It was a skill I would need one day. But here's the thing, skilled handwriting experts are still often able to tell if a sloppy signature appears authentic or if a beautiful signature appears fake. Don't just take it from me.
If you were to sign your name now and look at where does it start, where does it finish, and sign your name again, you will see the variations within the signature, but it will stop and start in the same place.
And don't just take it from her. Here's one of the world's best known autograph authenticators.
Autographs do change and there is variation. And that's another important aspect of when we authenticate an autograph, we look for variation. If you see an autograph that is so consistent, it looks identical each and every time, there's usually a problem with that.
Bottom line, signature verification isn't something you can just become an expert on overnight. Except that's literally what thousands of cities and counties across the country are trying to do with election workers. They're giving them a 2-hour online lesson and expecting them to become the Sherlock Holmes of handwriting, when they really shouldn't be judging anything other than the placement of I voted stickers. Because there are some obvious places those stickers should not go. But there are huge variations on how different election officials handle signature verification. Some states don't do it at all, so there's no disenfranchisement, whereas others, like all-mail ballot state Colorado, have strict standards for signatures, rejecting 1 out of every 151 votes this year for mismatches. That's nearly 22,000 ballots disqualified. Then you've got states like Georgia that actually put out a press release last month bragging about their high rejection rates. And now Georgia's even conducting a statewide audit of signature matches after President Trump called for it in a tweet. You know what that audit's going to find? It's going to find that election workers are not signature experts. And you know what comes after that? Days and days of that shocking headline dominating conservative news entertainment shows on Fox News and Newsmax. Look, getting signature verification correct is an important election issue. None of us should want fraud. But just because a signature doesn't match doesn't mean it was fraudulent, and none of us should want legit ballots tossed mistakenly either. It's just unreasonable to expect election workers to be experts at it.
There are many flaws from my perspective when, just giving a person a piece of paper and saying, all right, look for these qualities when trying to determine the validity of a signature on, one of those poll papers. I just think that, it's just not as accurate as it could be.
Which brings me to a better way to do this: mandatory curing laws. Currently, 21 states have rules on the books requiring election officials to notify voters if their absentee ballots were rejected. That means 29 states, plus the District of Columbia, where a forensic handwriting analyst had her ballot tossed, do not. In fact, she never would have known her signature was rejected if she hadn't proactively gone online to confirm her ballot was recorded. But most people don't know to do that, which is why laws requiring notice are so important. Some places do such a good job at helping voters fix honest mistakes that you're more likely to become an astronaut in Houston or hit a hole-in-one in Fort Lauderdale than you are to have your ballot tossed for a mismatched signature in either of those cities. Even Georgia adopted a curing law ahead of the 2020 election following a series of lawsuits. Watchdogs say that may have prevented more than 10,000 legitimate voters from having their legitimate votes tossed in a state that was ultimately decided by fewer than 12,000 votes. Georgia now requires local election officials to reach out to voters who have their ballots rejected, giving them until the Friday after the election to address the issues, like an elections worker doubting your grandmother's signature. Yet, in too many states, politicians are working overtime to prevent these pro-democracy measures. In both Texas and Alaska, state officials went to court before the election to ensure that they wouldn't have to tell voters if their ballots were rejected. Do you think that tens of thousands of Americans trying to exercise their civic duty should be denied the right to vote just because of bad handwriting? Neither do independent elections experts.
These signature verification issues tend to affect younger people, older people, and persons of color more frequently than other voters. And so that also raises some concerns that there may be some political dimensions to this, if there's certain populations that are being disenfranchised because of these signature verification requirements.
I'll save you the trip to dictionary.com. Limiting the ability of legit voters from casting legit votes is the definition of voter suppression. And while relying on poorly trained election workers to do handwriting analysis isn't necessarily nefarious, the refusal to adopt curing laws is.
I hope that now, in the aftermath of the election, lawmakers will look back at what happened and decide, well, we need to update those laws. We can see that there were problems. Even if it may only affect a few voters in the future, we still need to fix these problems.
This is the part where you can help. Your local and state officials need to know how easy it is to improve the integrity of their elections, and they need to know what you think about curing laws. Because they get to choose whether to expand voter access by improving mail vote systems or by improving the process in which we cure ballots from real voters. Or they can choose to make it harder to vote in a country that already embarrassingly ranks near the bottom of the entire planet on voter turnout. I'm not saying we should accept every signature that looks like it came from a drunk toddler. I'm just saying the integrity of our democracy depends on us reaching out to that voter to find out more, and not just assuming it was the work of a drunk toddler. Hey everyone, Noah Pransky here. Thanks for checking out the NBCLX YouTube channel. For more videos, click here. And don't forget to click subscribe to join the NBCLX community.